It had been an unreal turn of events. Their wind had withered to nothing. The fog had come upon them like an owl on its prey. And then the voices began. Whispers in the dark. Whispers now all around. To Captain Pierre Dosset, it was a clever setup. Someone out there knew that cold air would whip in from God knows where and settle off these coastal islands at dusk. Someone knew the inbound lanes from Africa. Someone knew they would be fatigued from the journey. But even he chided himself for the thought, however fleeting, that someone out there could summon a fog at will, like a sorcerer or a demon. Something flurried in the wisps of clouds off the port beam. The flicker of fire, the cast of shadow, a shape, more whispers. His French crew raised their muskets, the slings rattling with fear. Sickness had plagued their voyage from the Gulf of Guinea, and now the sickness of terror had taken hold. Shivering hands and quick, furtive glances animated the deck. In a single, coordinated instant, torch flames flared up all around his ship. His crew began to panic and murmur, "It's hell. It's the devil." But Captain Dosset realized his situation more precisely. He was surrounded. Obviously, his enemy had maneuvered into position without wind, sweeping in with oars as quiet as a fish. And just as he made the realization, he heard it before he felt it. Wind coming. He heard the flutter of sail, the creak of a mast, the swell of the sea. They could sit becalmed no longer, yet his enemy was upwind. His enemy had the weather gauge. He looked again to port and braced his face against the swelling breeze, approaching the bulwark transfixed, squinting, watching for what would come. A shape began to emerge from the ether before him. It was a sloop approaching head-on, but there was something more. The light, swift vessel began to take form, and so did the ghostly figure that stood on its bowsprit. It was a man. It was a man with glowing red eyes. Dosset's blood drained to his feet. His own eyes would not move. He felt his hands groping aimlessly for a spyglass, a blade, anything and nothing. Gawking men gathered at his side, gazes drawn to the ghoulish spectacle. The figure grew closer, larger. It was coming right at them. The wide-set eyes burned a trail of smoke behind them. Long black hair whipped in the wind, and as the figure raised a cutlass, Dosset and his men grew cold and their weapons heavy. Time ceased. Movement halted, and in that moment Dosset wondered if he was a fool. He wondered if the sailors' superstitions could be real, if there could be such a thing as a sorcerer after all. And then he chided himself again, and felt shame, retreating inward, deep inward, for he knew that it was all over. They'd lost the fight before it had even begun. As the figure slid closer, the wraith-like man, the ghoul, the Blackbeard, bellowed a war cry that echoed over the waters, and throughout the fog surrounding La Concorde, muzzle flashes and cannon flames flickered like a lightning storm.